Welcome everyone to episode 93 of A2Z Sports Talk, and for the first time in a while, an actual normal episode. We've been pumping
We're
out these
back.
NFL episodes, and we finally have a little bit of baseball to talk about. But I'm AJ as always. Zach is here with me. Zach, I guess I'll hand it off to you. You have some college football and golf news, I guess, to talk about a little bit.
Oh yeah. I guess kind of some of the biggest news, big headlines I would say in sports was the college football, all the teams realigning. So we already knew Texas and Oklahoma were going to join the SEC next year.
I'll tell you right now, I'm lost with it all. With all these different schools thrown in. I know the Pac-12 is depleted, but
Yeah,
I'm
Pac-12 is
lost.
dead. Conference of Champions is dead. And I'll get you, but this will be the perfect time for Gonzaga to join the Pac-12 and be like, "Oh, we're in a real conference," and then it still sucks. But yeah, so Texas and Oklahoma, they're going to SEC. That was announced last year, I think. But then all of a sudden, it all started with Colorado. They announced they're going to join the Big 12. So they're joining the Big 12 next year. Then dominoes just started to fall. And then that followed with Oregon and Washington saying they're going to join the Big 10, which earlier this year, I can't really remember, but that UCLA and USC we're going to transfer the Big 10 starting next year too. And then after that, it was Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah, I believe, are all going to the Big 12. And then I'm trying to, there's so much stuff that was going on. I like pulled all this up. Yeah, Arizona, Arizona State, and I believe Utah are in the Big 12. Let me check. Yeah. It doesn't show Utah on this thing where I have all the teams that are in each conference for some reason, or I'm just blind.
Because the Big 12
Yeah,
is up
they're in
to
the
like
Big 12. Sorry, I just didn't see
16
it.
or something like that, right?
Yeah, so like the Big 10's like the Big 18. The SEC I think has like 8 or SEC has 16 for 2024, and then the Big 10 should be the Big 18 as it has 18 teams, and then so that leaves just Cal, Stanford, Oregon State, and Washington State in the Pac-12. The Pac-4, they're gonna
Wow.
obviously have to find somewhere to go. It's just crazy. I think it all has to do with the money and these big TV deals each conference is getting. From a Clemson standpoint, the ACC has like the worst TV deal of all time because they signed it a couple years ago and it goes through 2036. So I really want Clemson to leave because or at least get a I don't know if they can just renegotiate or something, because us and Florida State have the high, like double everyone else in the conference TV viewership. So we're like generating the most
Mm.
basically money, but then it's all split up equally between every other
Yeah.
school. So like Boston College, who gets probably like 1.5 million viewers or 1 million viewers on a game. They get the same money as we do, and we get like on average 3 million every week. So that's kind of what's been driving it all. And then the Pac-12 kind of fell apart because um they were going to make a deal with Apple TV and stream it, which is so stupid. I'm honestly happy they all left, because if college football went to streaming networks, like it's dumb. Like I don't watch the MLS because I don't want it to buy Apple Plus.
Yeah. No, I get that.
um, but I think that's what kind of led to it. So it's been crazy. I am bummed that some of these rivalries are kind of going to go away a little bit. Um, like Oklahoma State's going to go away. Oregon State.
Yeah.
But even I know Oregon State's a rivalry, but Oregon's main rival is Washington.
Hmm.
And just it's going to be weird seeing Oregon or like UCLA playing against Rutgers in New Jersey
Yeah.
in like November, playing against Iowa, and it's like freezing rain and cold. It's
Yeah.
just gonna be weird. Or seeing like Rutgers playing in in Eugene. It's just gonna be
Yeah.
bizarre.
Yeah, it's obviously you mentioned it's money focused.
Yeah.
I just I was lost because obviously there were so many schools involved with this whole thing.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out. It's kind of like a trade deadline. You don't know, you can't remember what every
Yeah, it's
team and
crazy.
player is going to.
Um, yeah, it's nuts. The bad thing, like the SEC, like Oklahoma and Texas that are joining, it's not like they're really that far away from all the other schools, but
Mhm.
from like Oregon and Washington and LA all the way across, when you have to play like it really puts a lot more pressure on like the other sports, like softball. They have to play a Tuesday night game in
Yeah,
uh Rutgers in New Jersey. So they fly literally coast to coast and then fly back that night, have class the next day. It's just crazy.
it's tough. There's also something going on with Phil Mickelson, right? I know you
Oh
mentioned
yeah. Oh yeah, this
that
is
off the
crazy.
air a little bit.
Um, one more thing on the football.
Yeah.
A funny tweet I saw. It was like how they should split up the conferences in the Big Ten. They're like, we should have two conferences. One's named the Big Ten, one's named the Pac-10, and then we play the conference championship in the Rose Bowl.
Hmm.
So that's where the Rose Bowl game is always a matchup, usually of the best Pac-12 team that's not in the playoff and the best Big Ten team.
Yeah, yeah,
um,
man.
so so Phil Mickelson, obviously he's with Live, really good golfer. He is known as he loves to gamble. He really
Hmm.
honestly has a gambling addiction. And so there's this book that was a memoir of Billy Walters, who's like I guess a professional gambler, and I think he went to jail for I don't know, a bigger gambler than Phil. But apparently over the last 3 decades, Phil Mickelson has bet like all his bets have been worth up to $1 billion worth of bets. He's lost close to 100 million gambling, which they say lost to close to 100 million to gambling, but when you say he's bet a billion, I feel like that's really good. Like
Yes.
that's what I'm thinking. But apparently one of the rumors was is he tried to bet on a Ryder Cup he was competing in, and this was in 2011 or 2012, and apparently he tried to bet like 400,000 on the Ryder Cup. But what's crazy was US was up and US ended up losing the Ryder Cup, and it was the biggest like blown lead in Ryder Cup history because then Europe beat them.
Hmm.
Side note, the Ryder Cup is in September. It's very fun to watch
Hmm.
if it gets intense.
Yeah.
He made 43 bets on MLB games in one day. That's
Holy cow.
that's you'd have to make multiple bets per each game.
Yeah.
I would say. Uh there was a story that I saw on Twitter or X, I mean, sorry. Lots changed since our last episode.
A lot has changed.
But it was talking about how it was a guy on the in the booth for CBS or something, and apparently when he was in the tower and he was on like the whole Phil Mickelson was in at uh Phil Mickelson, when he get on the green, there'd be like his putt would be like a certain distance away. And so he'd look at his caddy and his caddy would hold up like 2-1 or 3-1. And the guy would in the booth would either say yes or no, depending on how if he thought he'd make it or not. So he'd literally be betting Phil Mickelson if he'd make the putt or not, which they
Unreal.
obviously caught on, and the guy couldn't do that.
Wow.
And then this one story I that is for sure is Phil Mickelson invited a group of friends to Las Vegas and said this quote as they entered the sports book. You guys go ahead because when I place my bets, it might move the line. So that just shows how much money he was placing on bets. And
Unbelievable.
then to end it off, Roy McIlroy had a comment about they've just been asking all the golfers about all his betting, and Roy McIlroy's comment was very funny. He said, "At least he can bet on the Ryder Cup this year because he won't be a part of it." So
I
that
was
was
gonna say,
funny.
I have a feeling the other golfers probably are not real fond of him after hearing about all this.
No, and there's also like a clip of him and Bryson DeChambeau who shot like a 58, which is crazy, and for Live a couple weeks ago or this past weekend. and it was them talking about a practice round, and they're having like a friendly wager like during the practice round, him and Phil, and Phil was like asking him if all these like or like the format of how they bet would be okay, how whatever he was saying. And Bryson's like, yeah, yeah, whatever, I don't care. And then he's like, Phil's like, you don't know what you like any format or anything? He's like, nah, he's like really don't care. He's like, then what do you think about? He's like, so it's basically just Phil only thinks about gambling. So
That's
it's
wild.
crazy.
That is very wild. Um, but no, like I said, it's episode 93. We have a little more than just football. Obviously, Zach got us started here, and there's been quite a few baseball newsworthy topics that have happened these past couple weeks. Of course, along with there's being 40 plus games left in the season, 40, 45 or so games left. So races are coming close in certain divisions. Obviously, a big news this week, Michael Lorenzen with the no hitter against the Nationals. I guess it's the third no hitter this year. Herman had a perfect game, but I think there was like
Yeah.
a team one
Yeah,
maybe
there's a
at
team
some
no
point.
hitter, I think. I don't remember who. Was
I
it
don't
the
remember
Rays?
either.
No, Framber had a no hitter just like a week ago.
And Framber had one. That's right. That's right. That's right. But no, Michael Lorenzen 124 pitches in that start. His first
And it
home
was
start as a Philly,
yeah,
which
second
is
start as a Philly too.
yeah. No, that's what I was gonna say. He's got I think they took his cleats and put him in the Hall of Fame because he's the first player to throw. It's one of those wild like stretch
Yeah.
of a stat things, but first player to throw a no hitter in his first home start with his new team. So again, one of those stretch of a stats, but still pretty impressive. And his first two starts as a Philly, he had 8 innings, 2 runs, I believe, against the Marlins, and then he had the no hitter. So
Hmm.
that's one heck of a start in Philadelphia to go with obviously Nola and Wheeler. And speaking of Nola, you and I have been on this for a while. He is
Yeah.
so overrated, dude. Like
Yeah,
so
I agree.
overrated.
And we'll
He's got like
probably
a
sign him this
450
offseason.
ERA.
We're gonna sign him
Yeah.
and Giolito this offseason. I can just
Hmm.
I can
Yeah,
imagine
I
it.
could see it. I could definitely see it.
But
No,
you know who I want to
Lorenzen,
resign? Sorry, I'm getting off topic, but I would like to resign Jay Mont
yeah. Yeah, it'd
personally.
be nice. He's been pitching well in Texas too.
Yeah.
He's been pitching well over there. But Lorenzen made the All-Star team with Detroit. He was their one All-Star that made it. And I was kind of like, what? Because he had like a 450 ERA or 440 ERA.
Yeah.
And since he came to Philly, he has been on a tear, obviously, which is a great addition for them. And that's a team I think can go really far. They're starting to get hot at the right time again.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And I think Philly can go really far. Another big a big news topic this week was the Jose Ramirez Tim Anderson fight,
Oh, that was
which
awesome.
escalated out of nowhere. Because really he just stole second base, Jose, and Tim
Uh-huh.
kind of stood over him for just a couple seconds. I mean, it didn't look anything like egregious or anything. And
I thought he
Jose
like
took
slapped
offense
the
to it.
tag on him or something.
That it had to have been something, or maybe something said because it escalated quickly, and all of a sudden punches were being thrown, and Tim Anderson was getting knocked on his
Oh,
backside.
that was
So,
the best part was the umpire just let him fight. He just
mhm,
backed away and let the
mhm.
boys be boys, which
Yep.
I like. I love
Another
a good
thing to keep
fight.
in mind, Tim Anderson. I don't know how much of this has to go into it. He's always been like a fiery, expressive player. He's
Hmm.
gone through quite a bit on and off the field. I mean, he had the whole family drama earlier this
Yeah.
year. And then on the field, I saw a stat. He's been literally the worst offensive player in baseball when you
Nice.
gather everything together, which is crazy because I mean, he was a 330 hitter 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's weird.
Dealt with a couple injuries, and then he was my number two shortstop. Remember that? Go
Yeah.
from last year? And I mean, he's obviously been awful this year. I think he's sitting at one homer on the year,
Nice
and he just had
take.
it recently. Awful take. Kind of like I've had a couple really like big duds on here.
Yeah.
That one and the Chiefs one from last year. I had the Chiefs at
Yeah.
8 and 9, I think.
I think one of them
And
this year is going to be how high you are on the Raiders. Like you think the Raiders are going to be so good, and
that
yeah,
that could hurt.
respectfully
That could
no.
hurt. We have a team coming up here that I'm very high on that I think you might be roasting me for as well.
Uh,
Um
you know what the funniest thing about that fight is somehow during the fight, Eloy Jimenez got hurt. He was like limping off the field.
That dude can't stay healthy for anything. We
No, he's so good. He can be so good, and then he just
yeah,
gets touched and he died. Also, yeah,
yeah.
continue. I was
No,
gonna
so
mention
the
another player known as Tyler
who's that?
O'Neill.
Hey, he's staying hot though right now. He's finally
He's
healthy.
hurt.
He was like day to day. He's in the lineup tonight. As
Is
as of
he?
as of Friday. He's in there tonight, yeah,
Can he
in left
walk on
field.
this turf or is he gonna hurt his knees? Like, geez, come on, play.
Yeah.
He's getting on my nerves.
Yeah. No, I definitely get that. What got on my nerves this week was the whole Orioles announcer situation. I'm sure you've seen that.
Oh yeah,
Uh
I watched the video. I had to watch it twice because I was like, did I
Same.
miss some? Is this some new slur that I don't know?
Hmm.
Like, I
No,
was like,
I watched it thinking, just waiting almost. Like, where's he gonna say
yeah, I
something
was like, where is he
offensive?
gonna say like a bad word or
And
something?
then the video ended. And so what I've been reading on is apparently the Orioles management doesn't like bringing up past failures or mentioning like prior players, former players. He's back tonight. Kevin Brown, the announcer, he's
Oh,
back tonight.
yes.
His suspension's done. But
Ooh, I hope he
Orioles
says something
fans,
spicy. I hope he just resigns on air.
well, he's a young guy, and from all I was seeing, it's like I didn't want to be one of those situations where he said something accidentally and then his whole career is ruined. But he literally
Yeah,
didn't say anything. Like they put the graphic up there they created the graphic. He was just
yeah,
reading off the graphic. I don't
yeah.
know what else he wanted him to do.
I
Um,
was like dumbfounded. Like, I don't, and it's just one guy who's everyone else was like, what's going on? And then just the one guy's like, yeah, suspended. The owner
no,
or the
yeah,
owner of the
it's.
team, I guess.
I'm glad he's back tonight. I don't know if they shortened his suspension, or suspension, I should say, or um, if this was already the suspension and it was due. He already sat it out. I don't know what that deal is, but he
I
is
hope
back
some
tonight.
team just offers him more money to come announce for them.
Yeah. No, the thing is with Kevin Brown, I don't watch a whole lot of Orioles games, but the couple that I do with the MLB subscription, I've liked him a lot. I think he's a really good announcer.
Yeah.
I can't believe they would have suspended him over. I thought maybe there was
Stating
something
the
behind
facts.
closed door. Seriously, yeah, that's all he was doing.
Did
I
you
was
see
thinking
all
maybe
the
there was
stuff like,
something.
wait, what are you saying?
I was gonna say I thought maybe there was something behind closed doors that happened, or but there was nothing that was
Yeah.
reported.
I like how all the broadcasters on other announcing other teams were kind of making like the Mets
Yeah.
guy just was like went on like a monologue. Chip Carey
Hmm.
uh mentioned something about it too, which I thought was cool. The
No,
broadcasters standing together as one.
no, for real. Guys were pretty ticked off about this situation. Orioles fans were chanting something along the lines of like bring Kevin Brown back or something like that. Like
Yeah.
so obviously I think everybody agreed on something here is that he did not
Yeah.
deserve to be suspended.
Everyone came
One other
together.
baseball topic though, one division that's really close is the NL Central. Sadly, not for our St. Louis Cardinals, but
Hey, never say
um,
never. We're only 9 games back.
who do you think wins this division?
I think Milwaukee wins it.
I think so too.
They just had the pitching.
Yeah, and I just think they barely win it though. Like I think the Reds and Cubs are going to hang around enough, just because
Yeah.
I don't think the Brewers are good either. And I
Yeah.
think if I had to pick somebody that I hope wins the division, obviously besides the Cardinals, which is not going to happen, is the Reds. I'd love to see the Reds in the postseason with Ellie De La Cruz
Yeah.
and like
I'm
some of
actually
these young
watching
flashy
the
guys.
Pirates Reds game right now because
Mm.
the Cardinal game isn't on yet.
Yeah, yeah. No, Pirates kind of fell out of it. I think whoever wins this division, they're getting smacked in the first round
Yeah.
immediately. But I don't know.
This
I
is
think
me
the
being
Brewers barely get it.
very optimistic. Weren't we back? Weren't we like 11 games back in 2011?
Yeah, I thought about that the other day. Yeah.
Hey, we've won two in
No,
a row. Let's run
you
it
know,
back.
we don't talk enough Cardinals. We don't. I should say we don't talk a lot about the Cardinals because people that listen aren't just Cardinals fans.
Yeah.
But there is one major news with the Cardinals that I have to talk with you that I didn't really put in our notes here. Um, we have two guys in AAA raking right now.
Mhm.
Luke and Baker has 31 homers and is batting like 330, and then Mason Wynn has been exploding. So they asked John Mozeliak why they're not up, and he was talking about how they have some issues they still need to work through and stuff. We are 11 games back and 14 games under.
Um,
Why not?
I know when Mason Wynn's coming up
When is
in
that?
September.
Oh, when
My
they
mom,
expand the rosters.
my mom was at a like this drinks in the dugout thing last night at Busch Stadium. So you got to go get stuff, like go be on the field, go in the dugout, do all the stuff, and then Mosaic talked. And of course, mom's like, "What questions do you want me to ask?" I said, "When was Mason Wayne gonna come up?" And Luke and
Uh-huh.
Baker. And then I said, "Ask Mosaic why he wouldn't trade for a starting pitcher in May and June when we knew we had no chance, no pitching." I don't know if mom asked that question, but she said Mason will be up in September, which makes sense. But maybe it's something with if you wait a little longer, you have another year of control of him or
I've
something,
Yeah,
or
I
it
thought
keeps
about
his
that.
rookie status for next year or something.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
the thing,
It's tough. It's tough for me to kind of. I've always taken Mo's side. I've always tried, even through the Brett Cecil signings and the trades that have gone down. I've always tried to take his side on things because as a GM, some GMs are great. Like the Atlanta Braves GM has been phenomenal over there. And then
yeah,
I mean it's hard to tell. Like in hindsight, we've said this before. The Marcelo Zuna trade looked good in the moment. He's coming off a 37 homer year. Um
140 RBIs.
yeah, exactly. But then it didn't work out. And it's so I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. And this one's hard for me because we've my dad made a joke the other day, like we have to see what Mater has in him first. Like Mater and Fermin, like this is not the future, and you're not going to
Yeah,
be competitive this year. What are you going to do with Luke and Baker? Like, why not? You brought him up just to sit
you
him on the
gotta
bench.
like. We have so many guys that are like the same person, like Luke and
Yes,
Baker, Alec Burleson, who I'm not. I saw him hit. He's hit a
he's
couple home runs,
he's
but
he's growing
no,
on me a
not
little,
at
just
all.
a little.
Is his on base percentage above 280 yet?
Probably not.
Gosh, he's in the lineup every night.
Mhm.
Um, him like Yepes. Is Yepes even alive? I haven't even heard about him. Luke and Baker, they're all kind of the same guys. So it's like, why don't we just use those guys that we don't need and trade them to someone else and get someone in return?
The only thing
Um,
I'm holding on to with Luke and Baker, because Mason Wynn is obviously the future at shortstop.
yeah,
The only thing with Luke and Baker I'm kind of holding on to is I don't think he's here. I don't think he's going to play here like ever. I think this offseason, I don't think they want, and I said this at the trade deadline, I think they're not wanting him to come up and struggle and ruin any trades and any trade value.
yeah,
That's the only thing I can think of because the dude is literally the best hitter in AAA and he's not
yeah.
playing. So that's the
It's
only
crazy.
thing I can think of.
Yeah, I don't know. I also think back to earlier this year, whenever um there was that report where the Marlins and Cardinals were in trade talks for Jesus Luzardo, and it was going to be O'Neill for Luzardo straight up.
Mm-hmm.
Man, man, I would have taken that deal.
Luzardo's been tough this year.
Yeah.
He's
And
been
then
really good.
also, sorry, I know we're getting super off topic, but we're from St. Louis. So I also saw some stat where we've been playing around 500 baseball ever since like the middle of May ish, because our April was so bad, we just have never
Yes.
been able to come back from it.
I still can't wrap my head around being the best team in spring training and coming out like 3-11 or whatever we were to start the
Yeah.
year. I don't know what happened in that time frame there. I think, and I don't know how you feel about this. I've talked about this on here before.
Mhm.
I wonder just at the beginning there how much that World Baseball Classic had to impact. And by no
Yeah.
means am I against the World Baseball Classic because it was phenomenal and great for the game. It brought so many fans, I bet, to watch. But I wonder like that slow start. Remember Goldie and Arenado started so slow.
Hmm.
And I just wonder I wonder how much of impact because when that happened, we talked about maybe it might have an impact later in the season rather than earlier because the wear
Yeah.
and tear. But they were away from spring training. I made a video on all
Yeah.
these guys that had struggled. A lot of people in the comments took it, it kind of went viral a little bit,
Hmm.
something like 20,000 views or something like that. A lot of people in the
Nice.
comments thought I was like hating on the World Baseball Classic, which I'm not at all. Like
No.
I think the World Baseball Classic was great. Obviously the
Yeah.
Otani and Japan thing, New Bar went crazy, but
Yeah.
overall, I think it had an impact on certain guys.
Yeah.
Um,
I bet it
Andres
does.
Jimenez has been ridiculously bad.
Yeah.
Like Tim Anderson level bad. He's batting like 217.
Trey
So
Turner's not doing good. Um,
yes. Yeah, he's the biggest name probably.
I guess Gallegos, he played in it too. He's been not good. Our
I
bullpen's
know.
like if we hadn't blown any of those saves too.
Hmm.
All right, this is just sad. Let's just continue.
I
2011,
know.
we came back 11 games back, so I'm holding out hope until we're mathematically eliminated.
You're gonna hold on for both of us because I don't have much this time around.